Hi everyone, Logan here from Roll. I know it's been a little while, so thank you for your patience. Today, we've got another exciting product I'm going to show you. Now, we've been hard at work on the table play interface, and we've shown you things like dice rollers, character sheets, and early versions of our asset tray, maps, and whiteboarding. But today I want to talk to you about another feature that many games use. Today we're going to talk about cards. So, you've seen before in our interface, we have a dice interface here, where you can pull up, D4, D8, D12, etc., etc. But what if you're playing a game that doesn't use dice? Or what if you're playing a game that, in addition to dice, uses cards drawn from a deck? We have this here, the cards interface. So this, by default, on my current setup, is pulling up a standard 52 card deck. You can see we have our deck section, our discard pile, and an empty slot where my hand is going to appear. So if I click on the deck, it draws a card into my hand. I can click on the empty slot here to draw another card as well. I can click on the deck to draw another card as well. All these aspects of the interface work. In addition to that, if I hover over any of these cards, they start face down. They flip over. And of course, if I want to flip them back over, I can do that too. Now, let's flip these cards back this way. I can, of course, also, you can see as I hover over here, I can take a card out of my hand. So I can hit this X, and look, it goes in the discard pile. Now, what's fun about that is the discard pile isn't just there to indicate that cards have been discarded. You can draw from it. Look at that. That card is back in my hand now. Let's put that card back in the discard for now. Now, sometimes you want to be looking at your own private hand of cards. So what we're looking at right here, see how it says View My Hand? These are my cards. These are cards that nobody else can see. But what if we want to see what everyone can see? You can switch it to Table View. These are cards that everyone will see, drawn from the same deck. So I could draw a couple of cards here, flip them over. These would be cards that every player at the table can see and have access to. So we understand that certain games require private hands and public things that are shown on the table. Certain games require only one of those things, but we want to make sure that you always have options for both. But what about games that don't use a standard 52 card deck? What about games that use custom decks or things like tarot? You can go over here to our Choose Deck interface. And for now, let's check out our tarot deck provided by our friend Brandon over at Sourcefall. So, again, we can draw some cards here, flip it over. Now you'll notice this is a tarot deck, and these cards are upside down. Now, when reading tarot, the orientation of the card is often important. So we wanted to make sure that orientation was part of how you controlled the digital cards in the space. Cards, when they're drawn, always have a random orientation. These three happen to all be drawn upside down. When you hover over them, there's another icon besides the X, which will flip the card. So you can change the orientation of the cards that you've drawn as well. This is great for games that require you to interpret the cards based on how they're facing, not just which cards you've drawn. Now, Roll doesn't just support 52 card decks or tarot, it also supports any custom decks. So if you have a game that requires its own deck of cards or even combinations of decks, those can be loaded into the interface and drawn from at will. This can be everything from random item generation cards to special powers to really any sort of prompt or card deck that any game uses. We understand here at Roll that people use different cards for different things. We want to make sure that these tools are as universal and as easy to use as possible. Now, let's also check out how shuffling works. You can click on the shuffle button here, and it gives you a bunch of options in the shuffle section. So we know when you're shuffling the cards, you may not want to always take everything from everyone's hands and from the table and from the discard and shuffle them all back into one deck. What if we just want to shuffle just the deck and leave everything else that's drawn on the table? What if we want to shuffle just the discard pile? What if we want to shuffle some combination of things? You can uncheck the things you don't want and check the things you do. And of course, our interface will dynamically tell you what's going to happen. So if I check discard, it says this will shuffle the discard pile only. If I check discard and deck, it says this will merge the discard pile back into the deck. But I left table and hands unchecked, so they will stay out. If I check off table, it says this will merge the table cards and discard pile back into the deck, but it will not merge in people's hands. If I check hands, this will merge all cards back into the deck. Click shuffle, boom. Everything has been merged back into the deck. So that's everything we have to show for today. I hope you liked a good glimpse at our early pass on the card interface. This is an interface that, just like everything else, we're going to be continuing to build on and iterate over time. Everything that you see here is still work in progress, but we hope that you're excited for the future of online role-playing with Roll. Thanks again. You can play with us.